Dear everyone, we are waiting for one more panelist to join. We'll be starting in another 2-3 minutes. Thank you.
A very warm good morning to all the viewers for leaving the Monday blues behind and joining all of us at AIC BIMTECH. I, Shreyash, on behalf of AIC BIMTECH, welcome all of you to the session Two Voices, India and Bharat. Before introducing the panel and starting the discussion, it's very important for us to set the scope of discussion. In the session topic, India gives the context of metro cities, which continues to be the watering hole as far as startups are concerned. Everyone wants to begin their startup journey from larger cities as they provide easy access to important things that help establish a venture, be it resources, capital, or talent. Whereas Bharat gives the context of tier 2 or tier 3 cities, where most of the entrepreneurs find it difficult to get guidance on converting an idea into a business, along with lack of right talent and technology, connectivity, logistics, funding issues, as well as language barriers when an entrepreneur looks for expansion. So without further ado, I introduce all of you to an amazing panel to do just that for you. And I'm thrilled to be able to introduce you to Sri Arnav Gupta ji. He is just 22, but serves as the founder and CEO of V360.ai. A fun fact, Arnav has represented New South Wales Australia tournament in Counter-Strike, Global Offensive, and PUBG PC. He not only played but led his team to second rank in the state. We also have Sri Ashish Khareji. He is founder and CEO of MentorCard. And sir, if I have to quote you, I am on a mission to make youth of India industry and future ready. Sir has implemented business solutions in the field of information technology and services for customers across 20 plus countries. Well, that's quite a remarkable achievement. And finally, we have got Sri Kumar Mayankji. The whole world runs behind CX, customer experience, but Mr. Kumar runs behind EX, employee experience. And that's why he founded Zimyo. Mr. Kumar says, I have a dream, and that is creating 1 million jobs directly or indirectly someday. So we'll be starting the panel discussion with the youngest voice on the panel today, Arnavji. My first question to you, sir, is Inc 42 survey, and there's a bit of statistics that I'm going to throw here and there throughout the session. So Inc 42 survey says nearly 50% founders say abrupt regulatory changes create negative impact on startup ecosystem. You come from Bhopal, a tier 2 city of Madhya Pradesh, which is also famous for some of the big startups such as InfoBeans, which is a listed company. Do you think that the government policies support the startup ecosystem there? And for rest of the states in the country, what should be the ideal policies that governments should create which will help the startup ecosystem grow in small cities as well?
Hi everyone. Thanks a lot, Shreyansh, for the same, and I welcome all the panelists and everyone present here. Thanks a lot for giving me a chance to speak. So coming from Bhopal, and I think being a tier 2 city, I think there are a lot of things from ground up which we as entrepreneurs and organization observe. And I think for me, there would be like probably 5 things where I would love the government to work on. And I think government is already taking really proactive steps. And Madhya Pradesh, the government is really active for promoting the startups. And there are like amazing startups of Madhya Pradesh. I think InfoBeans is a very established company. Apart from that, there are, I mean, many B2B SaaS and B2B, B2C, startups who are growing really well. They might not be really, I mean, popular on a international level, but that doesn't mean they're not doing a good job. They're doing an extremely well job. In terms for me, what I think, I mean, in terms of the top 5 things, what I would think for a startup policy to have is, one is, I think every entrepreneur, I believe, focuses on building. Maybe he's a product guy or a tech guy. And I think when there are things like compliances and regulatory things who hinder into the process, that becomes a little difficult for them. So I think one thing is I would want the government to really be proactive so that these entrepreneurs doesn't have to, really work hard on the compliance and regulatory. Maybe they could be, certain things where they could help the startups to actually minimize those processes. So one that. Second is, I think that yes, access to funding is a challenge in tier 2 cities. You don't have bigger VCs coming here, but now things are changing. I mean, in Bhopal itself, I can list down 10 to 12 big VCs who really have the goal of, investing into Madhya Pradesh and other tier 2 states and tier 2 cities. So I think that's another good thing. But the thing which is still lacking is access to right mentorship. For a startup and entrepreneur, I think access to right mentorship is extremely important. There are, institutes and colleges who, are incubation centers, and, I'm not going to name anyone, but they're having professors and, people who have taught across their lives, and now they're teaching entrepreneurship as well. I personally think that an entrepreneur should teach entrepreneurship. I think that's very important because someone who has been through the process, he can, really put in those insights which are helpful. I mean, there are people who have been entrepreneurs, and I think getting good entrepreneurs in city and mentoring the youth is extremely important. So I think startup policy should invite great entrepreneurs across the India, and they should probably mentor the people here. I think that's where it's lacking here. And I think the third is obviously the talent development part. I think our government is also working hard on it, but I think there is more focus to be done here, where we can develop the talent here so that we can match the tier 1 cities. There are a lot of good engineering colleges already present here, but I think more focus can be put onto these parts. And I think these 3-4 parts on light would be extremely important for a startup policy to have. But one is, yes, the access to right mentorship from the right people. I think that's one of the most important aspects which our policies should be having. I think that would be my take from this one.
Thanks a lot, Arnav, for sharing this. Now, I'll be requesting the participants that if you have got any questions for our panelists, you can drop it in the Q&A section, and we'll be taking up the questions posted by you at the end of the session. So now we have heard from the youngest voice. Now I would like to hear from the most experienced and seasoned voice that we have in our panel today, and that is Ashish sir. So, sir, I have a question for you, and that is regarding the barriers only, which Arnav has said, and you also run the mentor card. So, you would relate to my question. So, you have been to every nook and corner of this country and have also implemented business solutions and products in the field of IT services for customer across 20 plus countries, which is roughly my and Arnav's age. So I want to know through you, what are the advantages that tier 2 cities have which overshadow their disadvantages against metro and tier 1 cities?
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much, Shreyas, for invite me, for sharing the my thoughts on various questions you are going to ask. I also come from MP, Madhya Pradesh, so yeah, I'm able to relate what Arnav is saying. And I come from the tier 3 city, so that's, adds more. And I would say the biggest advantages of tier 2, tier 3 city student or entrepreneurs is that they have already having a lack of resources. And when somebody have a lack of resources, but he has an inspiration or aspiration to grow more, they are able to do it better. Why? Because they know the importance of something which is they don't have. When we have access to several resources at no effort, obviously we don't know the value of it. And the tier 2, tier 3 cities producing youth whose aspirations are growing every day because of the global connectivity, because of the what is happening in the international market or in the metro cities. They are absolutely able to see and watch it in this connected world, and that's why it make them to do it more at a lesser this thing. So some of the advantages, like is that humbleness, that background, that to do something in their life, to achieve something, because there's a lack of resources, is what makes everybody more result oriented. And I come from the city, tier 3, that is several year back. When I moved to the metro, I'm able to relate, because the communication skills, the other skills also become issue. At times, I'm saying was from Hindi medium, and we had a lot of problems in terms of communicating into the business side. But here the English is not important. The important is the communication. That are you able to communicate that what you want to do? So I would say we'll talk more on this as we move further. But the advantage is that they have lack of resources, and that's make them work hard towards to arrange those resources, and that makes them more advantageous position.
Thanks a lot, sir. And I can relate to it because in these schools, we are always taught that companies always have limited resources and limited time. So you also have to take decisions keeping these things in mind. Now, we have heard the youngest and the most senior voice, which we have. Now, let me come to Mayankji, who's kind of balancing in between. So, sir, continuing the question about barriers which we are faced. So, your office address, when I checked online, was Rider House, Sector 44, Gurugram, a posh Delhi NCR address. And I want to know from you that definitely this wasn't the infrastructure you started with, right? So, does infrastructure play an important role for startups which are looking to scale up? If yes, then how can tier 2 city startups eradicate this challenge?
Well, first of all, at the outset, thank you for having me on the panel. Shreyas. I'll answer this in a very more of a someone who is at a fledgling startup or thinking of starting his own or her own now. So I also come from a tier two town. I come from Patna, Bihar. Much of the things that I have access now wasn't there back in 90s when I was growing up. So I also feel that infrastructure, when I say infrastructure, it can be not just physical in evidence, but also digital infrastructure, right? So if you look at most of these SaaS companies, the enterprise software category that got created after internet became prevalent with Geo. So 2016 was the year where digital infrastructure happened, right? And all of us had now access. I mean, I remember most of you when you were younger, calling itself would have been a pain, like 2 rupees a minute and thing, right? So it's not just the digital infrastructure. There are infrastructures talking about networking infrastructures, right? Wherein there are events happening, right? And let's say to even host a gathering, right? And I'm talking about cities like Patna, right? There wouldn't be very many events places, right? So when you say that Zimio is at like we have a whole floor and getting another floor in a very too uptown, place in Gurgaon, but that's not how we started. It all started, much like a garage office with three people sitting in a basement. And I think all of you, when you will start, you cannot start like unless you come from wealth or maybe at an ideation you would have got the funding. 99.99% don't, right? So you'll start from something very basic. The trick is that you have to be, in the center of the center where the activity is happening, right? So for if you are doing financial startup, right, something into fintech, you have to be in Mumbai because there is where all the BFSI and the NBFC center happens, right? We chose Gurgaon, right? And again, it could have all started somewhere in Gwalior, where I spent most of my life too, right? But it started in Gurgaon because we felt that as we grow, right, the city also has the infrastructure to cater to us. Now, if states are and state governments are serious about promoting this, you would need a lot of this ecosystem support, physical infrastructure, digital infrastructure, networking infrastructure in the states. Just right now, I think Hyderabad, Telangana government had their own office for startups, which came into light. I mean, it had like some sitting space for 40,000 people and some 20,000 startups is what they're envisaging. So, I mean, that's some initiative which government, can also think, right? But these infrastructure at the moment are, I won't say missing, but when you go to scale, you need these infrastructures to grow. And that is where we came into picture that though you'll start garage, we needed this physical infrastructure and the networking and the digital and many other infrastructures to keep the momentum growing. Hope that answers the question.
Yes, sir, very much. And that also moves the conversation slightly towards funding, the lack of resources, as we can say. So now I would like to ask Arnav a question regarding to funding that business dreams are invariably fueled by money. And at the startup level, entrepreneurs need to burn cash until their growth engine starts firing. With almost no venture capital firms, as you already mentioned in giving the answer to my first question. So, what was your journey and how did you raise funds to run your startup?
Thanks a lot, Shreyansh. And I come from a family business. Giving on to that context, my dad is a businessman as well. Throughout past 22 years, he has built his company from scratch and, being profitable from day zero. So, I obviously have the privilege of, learning from the VC world as well as my father, who has been a traditional businessman. So, combining them both has been really efficient for me. For me, I personally think that is what I have learned so far, that, maybe the ways of doing business could be different. Maybe you raise capital, you burn cash, and then you do your way, or else you become profitable for day one. Maybe be frugal and what all. There are different ways, but I personally think the end goal remains the same for everyone: to become profitable and to generate profits for all the stakeholders and or your team as well. So I think ways of doing business is different. The modern world has changed the way of doing business, but the end goal remains the same. And that is what we focus on. I have the privilege of learning from both the models and then applying them wherever one's deemed fit. I think for my own personal journey, I was 19 when I started V360. I was fresh out of college. I dropped out of my university to, start V360. Parents were always supportive about it. And, speaking on that, in my journey towards fundraising, I really didn't have a clue. I was very fascinated by people saying, they raised 100 million, they raised 200 million, turned unicorn. I was always fascinated by it, but I didn't, know anything about, what is it or how it's done. So I simply, the way I started my journey was by, making books my best friend. That's how I started. I started reading a lot of, books, and I think that has helped me a lot. Early on, I think one of the things which I learned is it's very important to have a coach and a mentor. I mean, these two are completely different things. Mentor, you can be vulnerable with him, but a coach, he's one who is the frugal with you. So I think you need both the people in your life. I had a privilege of having a great mentor early on in my life, which helped me across my process. So the way I started fundraising was just by, creating a pitch deck. And pitch deck, I started downloading templates and then, using them. And I started my fundraising process. And I think just started meeting. And I still remember for the first like 20-30 meetings, people after the meeting tell ki bhai, kahan ka bachcha aa gaya, I don't know where is he from, what is he speaking, and I know this is not something. So I think I still remember I faced almost 134 rejections in my first calls. So these were, very learning processes, although I, thought about quitting as well. But I mean, your inspiration, keeps you going. So for the first 135 rejections, I mean, it really broke me. And but the best part was after every pitch, as soon as the person rejected, I always had this habit of, asking them ki what went wrong. Always, they told me that certain thing I didn't like, certain things I didn't like. But I mean, the best part is when you give 135 pitches, 140 pitches, you get rejected, you learn a lot from them. I started learning from them. I made an Excel sheet. I mean, it's an interesting story. I made an Excel sheet. Every question which was asked, I wrote the question and wrote my ideal answer, and then went with my mentor and corrected that, perfected that. After 135 pitches, I almost had a question bank of almost 90 to 100 questions which people ask, and I just perfected that skill and kept on doing it. And that's how I iteratively, become better at it, learned from my mistakes, did better. And after my, 135th, from 136th pitch to the next 34 pitches, I landed all of them and I closed my round. That's how it started. Started raising funds in May, and I got my first commitment after doing 6 months of pitches. I did my first commitment in October, and then that's how we closed down. So yeah, that's about my journey. And I think rejections make you stronger, the struggles make you stronger, and I think you learn from them. If there's anything bad which happened, if you learn from them, then it's a good thing. That's what I believe. So I think that's how my fundraising process started. A lot of rejections, but I say everyone played a pivotal role. The same people who rejected participated in our next round. So I think that is very I'm very happy and proud about it.
Thanks, Arnav. So actually, off the record, me and Sayam sir was talking, and he told me that you are a very great speaker, a very great orator, and your pitches are worth listening. So now I think he knows the secret behind your pitches. You answered your journey, but there are many people who are not as privileged as you are, not taking anything away from you and your hardships, but they don't have the kind of background, or as you mentioned, your dad was your mentor from the starting. So I want to ask you, what should be the roadmap for them, those who are not very much privileged?
Correct. So I think that's a great question. So I think for someone being with a lot of privileges or not so many privileges, one thing which is extremely important for everyone is to be curious and to be eager about learning. I think I had this attitude from day zero, and I think that has what has changed everything. One has to be eager about things. One has to be curious about why it's happening, how it's happening. And I think when you start becoming very curious, I think that is when you start changing the game. People say, people always, sometimes many people come to me and say that, sometimes parents come to me and say, please, talk to my child as well, and please motivate him. I always say that, motivation is very temporary. Motivation is just putting some good jargon words and then pumping up a kid or pumping up someone just for him to work temporarily. And I think motivation is something which is temporary. Inspiration is something which is permanent, and you should be inspired about things. I was from day zero inspired about, creating employment, having a great culture, building a great product. That is what had inspired me. And that's the reason why I was very curious and eager about learning from things. So I think, yes, for anyone, who is just starting up, be curious. I think have the hunger, be eager to learn. I think learning is extremely important. I was 19. I didn't know anything about finances, funding, let alone nothing about product tech, anything. But I was very curious. I started learning from the best. I started, reading a lot of books, learning from people, hearing a lot of interviews. And I think that is what slowly and slowly impacted me. I still think that I've just started my journey. So I'm still curious. I still read books. I still am very eager. I learn from, very experienced people like, Mayankji and, Ashishji. These are all inspiration. And, I've heard a lot from, people around. And I think still curious and, eager to learn from everyone around. So I think that is what would help a child to start.
Well, those were noteworthy points, and I have already made my notes. Hope other attendees would have also done the same. But I would request attendees as well that you rename yourself with your name hyphen the name of your organization. So that will help our co-host sort a few things. Now moving on to our very esteemed panelist, Ashish sir. So again, I would be throwing a few stats, which I got from Statista. So the number of English internet users in 2021 across India stood at about 175 million and was projected to increase to 199 million in 2025. For Indian language users, this number was about 234 million users in 2021 and projected to reach around 536 million by 2025. So, sir, you are based out of Delhi NCR, but we can see at your website, MentorCart, that you are growing in tier 2 and 3 cities as well. And when you penetrate, what are the challenges that you face? Is it related to language barrier, talent acquisition, taste and preference, or something else? Please let us know.
Okay, thank you so much. This is a very, great question and close to my heart. I would say for your customers or your partners or your collaborator, whosoever you work with, the only language is that solving their problem. Are you connecting with their problem? Are you able to do value add to what they are looking for? Once you connect with that, the language doesn't matter, because what matters is the only language is problem and solution. And then whatever comfortable they are able to connect with you. So I would say, yes, the language and all is very important to communicate, but what is more communication is that the value add which you are giving to a customer. So in that way, if you see my platform, which is MentorCart, we help actually youth to I don't know what you mentioned about creating employment and basically making more India employable, right? If you see the figures, 6.5 million grads comes out every year out of the colleges, and 1.5 millions are engineers out of that. In totality, out of 6.5 million, only 40% to 42% are employable, right? Employable. And how many get employed? That even low, right? So that's the problem we are solving. Now that problem exists where? More in tier 2 colleges, tier 2 3 cities, as well as colleges. So you will have a tier 2, tier 3 colleges in Delhi NCR as well, right? The same kind of a crowd you will have in tier 2, tier 3 city as well. Yes, for them, the exposure is less, but aspirations are growing, right? So what is important is connecting with the problem, trying to solve that problem, and the language barriers automatically removes. I see in various of my sessions, because when the mentors does sessions across my platform, so we have on a platform university colleges, we have job portals integrated, we have youth coming in, we have companies there who are hiring, and all of this together in one single platform. When you do communicate, you are able to connect. Actually what happens, student come say, I don't know Hindi, I don't know English, मेरे को English नहीं आता. Somebody saying, I'm not able to communicate, I'm able to understand. I said, do you want to really do that? If you're ready to learn, then you can change it. If I can do it, who could not speak even one single sentence when I came out of the tier 3 city, then you can also do it. But you have to decide once. Why after graduation also you're not able to do it? Because you haven't decided कि करना ही है मुझे. फाड़ दूंगा मैं, तोड़ दूंगा टाइप, 3 महीने में तो हो जाएगा. So if there is a sincere effort, then it can be done. So then language barrier automatically goes off. We have tier 2, 3 cities, not only North India we are addressing. We have in Hyderabad, we have in Chennai, in Coimbatore, in Kerala. So students are pan India for me. And we have to speak a common language, right? So that's how it is.
Thank you, sir. Well, since you have pointed out towards the problems related to customers and hiring, so I'll come to you, Mayank sir, now. That when I visited Zimyo, I was welcomed with a 47-second long video describing the UVP, the unique value proposition of Zimyo. Very crisp, to the point, and easy to understand and use as well. But as Ashish sir said, that he was not very fluent and frequent with English when he came out from tier 3 cities. So I know it's very attractive for companies based in metro and tier 1 audiences, but I want to understand how it resonates with MSMEs in tier 2 and below towns.
Well, when we talk about Bharat, right, and we are talking about these tier 2 town cities, but we also have to understand that English, though not, a language from the land, unites us in some way, right? So if I were to code a software which would be, let's say, Hindi first or something like a Tamil first, right? And I've lived in Chennai long enough to know this, that, it will solve the case of the land. But my point is that English allows me to be, unanimously present across different geographies, right? And again, we don't just build for India, we also build for, tier 2 cities globally, right? And even there, English has allowed me to, build it for them. And again, as I said, what is the purpose we are solving? So in that 47-second video, there's another element that I want to highlight on the group is that Zimyo is both a SaaS and a fintech. So what we do is we onboard customers on our HR solutions, which makes leave, payroll, attendance, salary slips, hiring to retiring solution. But there's an element. And as when you introduced me, you said that I want to make employee experience. So the employees on the platform, they can get access to insurance, loans. Now imagine someone sitting in Tanjavur and Tamil Nadu, having access to financial solutions, which even he cannot have it in his province from a bank. Why? Many reasons. Physical access to the NBFC, the bank. The second is he at a financial stature, right? If you go for a loan, right, you need at least 30,000 of salary and something. When I said employee experience, I'm talking even about the blue collar employee working in tier 1 to tier 2 to a village. Anyone who is working, he deserves access to financial products. And that is one access I'm working on, right? People work on access to or rights to information and many things. I work on the right of financial access. That is my high. So when I build these products, my purpose is above language, it's above geographies, it's above many of the things that were, that we put it as black and white, right? So I think the purpose, you have to build it for the purpose. And I think Arnav had pointed it out, right? And Ashish, reinforced it. If you are very purpose driven, like a motivation, this is what inspires it. So someone using my software is also inspired because, we are actually working to solve employee experience, right? If I am a very considerate employer, I know that by using Zimyo, I can give maybe a payday, maybe insurance, maybe wealth investment options to my factory worker. And we have like physical education classes for these workers sitting in factories in some logistics warehouse, wherein we enable them, we teach them how to file tax, we teach them how, what insurance will help them with, right? And I hope many of you know the hazards of the 10-minute delivery or whatever, right? There are a lot of accidents and things, right? So true employee experience, I think I have been able to deliver it with whatever the language constraints I was in that you mentioned, and the diversity angle to it even, right? So we work across channels, we work across, regions, religions, nothing, when you are solving a purpose, it's for the general masses. And yeah, that is where we come to. Again, Shreyas, hope that answers the question or dwell into more.
No, sure. But I have to give you this, that you are a very innovative entrepreneur for sure. Because the smoothness with you integrated HRMS portal with fintech, and also the ease with which you have explained it to all of us, that's very commendable. So thanks a lot.
I would
for
also want to
answering.
take a minute more to help everyone understand when Ashish mentioned that, the purpose defines you. So I come from a commerce background. I run a tech company and I'm solving a fintech problem, right? And again, I don't come from a business family. My dad was a farmer. So my journey to solve the purpose has, as there's a good quote by Steve Jobs, you can always connect the dots backwards, right? So I've worked through to solve this purpose. I worked in microfinance. I understood how microfinance works. I worked in as a product manager to understand how the technology would move to build a HR tech product. So if you're really driven, right, don't expect success to happen in real time, right? It will take 10 years to become an overnight success. And as Arnav also said, how many pitches? Like he has 100, I might have 300, right? But the journey would be same for you, no less, right? So that is one thing I also want to leave with the audience. Please continue.
I agree. And just to add here, from what Mayank has said, that like he's solving the problem and then he's adding the fintech, another product. Why? Because he understands the problem of a user, that it's not only the HRMS is a problem. The employer want to do a value add to its employee. And if they want to do it, then you will also have to do a lot of value add. Like, for example, at Mentor Card, what happens? People learn new skills or future skills to get ultimately a employment or start an entrepreneurship journey. Both are possible on Mentor Card. But in tier 2, tier 3 city, if your program fee is 40,000 rupees, 50,000 rupees, even if it is pay after placement, you will have to have a mechanism to support them that they can get funded. So then you integrate NBFCs, right? So Mentor Card integrated NBFCs, Mentor Card integrated other partners, Mentor Card integrated job portal also, Mentor Card brought university college also at one platform. Instead of solving a problem, the right word is in silos. If you try to solve as an entrepreneur a problem in silos, it won't last for long. And that's why you see that the many startups start and they fail either early stage or maybe at a growing stage because they were focusing on that particular area is good thing to start with. But until you support the entire ecosystem around that problem, then you will not be able to have a long sustainable goals. And that's very important, because if you try to solve a problem in silos, it won't last for long, neither with your customer, and they will not go stick with you. Yeah.
So my panel's views goes with a quote that is, depth is important, but breadth is what is going to give you longevity. So continuing on the same thoughts which Ashish said you have left, and asking Arnav one of the hiring related problems. So recently I was going through a book called Love Your Career, where the author Fran Hauser, she said that recruiting in rural areas is a significant challenge for companies. While many businesses are headquartered in or have satellite locations scattered throughout rural areas, HR managers and recruiters still struggle to attract top level talent. So, to find highly qualified people in rural areas, or here I should say Bharat, that is tier 2 and 3 cities, what variables a company needs to consider?
Correct. So I think thanks a lot for the question. Firstly, I think that I've seen a lot of tier one, companies coming from tier one cities coming to Bhopal or Indore and, trying to hire and then feeling very deflated that, it's extremely difficult and, asking for help and all around. I personally think that hiring in tier one and in tier two is completely different. I mean, you need to have a different approach. What people do is they think of having tier one approaches into tier two cities that simply won't work. Just like having a tier two approach won't work in tier one. I mean, people coming from Delhi think about, or Bangalore. I mean, they will probably come to Bhopal and, what they will do is they will try to copy what they did in Bangalore and, think about them working in Bhopal. For example, there was a company who came in, Bhopal, and they made this amazing office and they had table tennis and all sort of recreational things and food, etc., all of these things, like all fancy stuff as a startup does. And then they were facing extreme difficulties, and then he asked me, Arnav, how do you manage your workforce? How do you manage to efficiently hire while I'm giving everything where you are not, and how you're still able to hire? So I simply say that I think that comes from experience. What we believe in tier 2 cities, the most important thing what a person wants is job security. If you are able to build a culture where he feels safe, he's going to be with you throughout lifetime. The best part, or the part I really love about tier 2 cities, is people don't have like extreme demands. Like I've seen in Bangalore, people having multiple offers. I'm sure all the entrepreneurs in the house might be facing that too. People come, they take your offer and subsequently join another offer. That's something happening across the board. And very happy to share that this does not happen in Bhopal. If people give you their word, they will join your startup. I mean, irrespective, or they will say upfront, I won't be able to. I mean, the best part is if a person connects with your company at a level where he thinks that, yahan mere ko, I'll get that job security for my family, he's more than happy, because the living expense in Bhopal is extremely low. People don't have that, high demands. People really want to feel safe. And I think that's where, this comes in. That's where your culture drives in. People want a healthy culture, because in Bhopal things are a little bit slow. Things are a little bit anywhere from anywhere. If you want to go from the city, it'll take you 15 minutes, not more than that. So I mean, people, the living expense and everything has been really low, and that gives the empowerment to people that if they get the job security, they're gonna be there for you. They just want a healthy culture. I mean, I'm not saying they won't work hard. They would work hard as same as, the people in tier one cities, maybe more. You can be really, probably, they will understand you more because, coming from a tier two city, that is what I have felt. So I think, yes, I think the way we do recruitment, we look at the culture first. And the only thing we look at is, if the person has intelligence. Maybe he's not from that field, but if he has the eagerness to learn, he can switch fields and make, really an impactful, thing at your startup. That's one. Second is, it's important to really identify the good talent pools. For example, Bhopal has a lot of good engineering colleges. I mean, obviously there are some good and some are average as well. You need to identify the people who are good in those engineering colleges and have a connect with them. That's how you get the good pool here. And that's what we do. And I think that's major on the points. I can list down many small points, but the theme relies upon, if you give security to a person, if he feels safe in your organization, he's going to be there. Because the major problem in Bhopal is people are unemployed. They want a job. If you're giving them job and security, they will never ever leave you, irrespective. I know, although this would be a bit too sharing, but happy to share across. The employees in our organization have outside offers of almost 3x of their salaries. And the reason why they want to stick is, one, they want to be in Bhopal. Second is, they know ki bhai, jo bhi hoga, my salaries would come on time. I don't have to worry about anything else. And I think that is what sticks people. That is what empowers the organization going forward.
Thanks, Arnav. So I feel that those participants who have joined us, who are graduating or in the final year of their college, now you know what is the mindset that a recruiter comes with, and it will help you in your placement drives. So now moving towards the customer part, I would ask Ashish sir, your point of view, that as an entrepreneur, we have seen that entrepreneurs are rigid about their product and ignore product customization. And so what's your take on changing USP and UVP with changing demographics? And is customization the need of the hour?
Yeah, so it's a great question. Just to make it in a very simple way, the answering is that I always believe that the entrepreneurs, when they launch their product with a particular idea, which they think that will solve their target audience problem, and the launch is only with 20% features or 20% of what they want. The rest of the 80% built over the period of time, that how customer chooses to use it. So it is never if you are an entrepreneur and if you think that you will be you want to launch your product only when it is perfect, then that perfect position will never come. The way the products of like Facebook or Google size have, then they were launched, what was their shape, and what they have launched with that one minimum feature or two feature or three features, and then the rest of things are built over the period of time, that how customer use it. So I will say that when you build a product, what customer wants it or need it, they are more sustainable rather than you decide what you want to sell. So that's why the selling proposition automatically get benefited when it is connected with the value prop what you are going to bring. So my position will be that the product are being built over the period of time. They are never the first timer. That's why you say beta, alpha, all that is because you are improving and improvising. And I've seen that journey in my jobs when I was doing it, or even when I built my second startup in US, which was in digital transformation space, and now third, which is MentorCard, which is also over the period of time has evolved what people wanted, what my target audience wanted. So there is no reason for rigidness, because if entrepreneur get rigid about what he want to sell, then customers are not going to buy it. And if any time any entrepreneur sometime knowingly unknowingly get into that phase, type, then what they should be doing, that they are also a customer to someone. All of us are customer to someone, some product, from day morning to day till late evening or night. And the way we behave or way we react to those companies or those products, and we adopt them, we have to have a similar phase going for your own product when you are going to sell in the market. And that's the problem. Like the same entrepreneur, he picks up the call when somebody irritating him again and again, ye le lo, wo le lo, finance le lo, insurance le lo, banking le lo, card le lo, whatever it is, and he gets irritated. But when he start a startup, he also start doing the same thing. Then obviously you'll have to change that. You have to change that how you need to be contact your customer, how you need to actually. That's why if you see that many startups have grown, because they have disrupted those ideas that how they involving or engaging their customers with their product. So I'm saying rigid okay to kuch nahi hoega, but obviously what customer wants is basically. Also I want to add on Arnav point, if that answers your question, and that is my close to area, is what recruiter hire for. In my belief, I would have hired thousands of people in my lifetime because of the large team I have handled in the previous avatar. I used to look at only two things and give a weightage accordingly. You hire for you hire for competency and will, which is attitude, right? And when I used to give importance, even if it is a less competent guy but have a solid attitude, right? I would rather have that guy in my team. And I've seen in my lifetime with customer places or my team, etc., there's one competent guy, super content. The work is super, the perfect output, what you want, but his attitude is not good towards the company. His mindset towards the people who are working, teamwork, is completely toxic. Then he's going to spoil more than he created. So it's better to have that judgment early before. And that's what I say to all the students who are here. Whatever you want to do, create that willingness to learn. That's the only thing which is going to be constant in your life, is learning and changing yourself. Competencies you will build up over the period of time. And if you give an employer a confident that boss मैं कर लूंगा, just trust me, right? I don't know this, but I will learn. If you could give this confidence in that 15 minute of interview, he is going to hire you. For sure.
I also, I think, really, agree to your points. And I think willingness to learn is something you want, because if someone has willingness to learn, whatever task you give to him, he will research about it and get it done. And that's what, as a recruiter, people want. And I think also, since there are a lot of students here, I would also point out, one uh, such formula which, I apply to, people, who are really valuable to me. I always think at, a simple formula that intent and integrity always matters more than intellect. I mean, if you have that intent and integrity towards work, you are going to be always more valuable than someone who has an intellect. I mean, for an employer, I think personally, I go by that.
Yeah, absolutely. And just one message to, since there are young people around, there are 3 stages of career I see, and I have lived all 3. So I'm saying that the early stage of your career for 5 to 7 years, just look at exposure. Don't look at only money. Okay. Do not run for packages. Abhi, unfortunately, situations kharab hai. On the computer science area, people just say package, 10 lakh, 15 lakhs, 10 lakh. And after that, a year, they are fired because they are costly. Right. So I'm saying that look for thing what you are deserving it. So early stage of your career is more of learning and exposure. The mid stage, you make money. Third stage, you look for position. आप सब कुछ छोड़ देते हो. I left 7 figures at my stage of the career. I said, नहीं, ये नहीं करना. I have to build something else. I have to help people. I have to build something else. And that's what probably every one of us have stepped into entrepreneurship, because you want to create differentiation. So that third career is any going to come. When you look for position, name, you want to have something on your own. So these things are going to happen. But if you have done that exposure and learning in those initial 5 years, then only you will be able to do all 3 careers at a very, very respectable way to make it.
Absolutely. I think I agree. I would just also like to add, 2 points on, 2 points on the same is, I think the first, aspect of life, you really, took it well, you described it well, that, get as much exposure as you can. And I also personally think that's a bit controversial, but I think that, people nowadays are really confined towards ki bhai, I will only work for, 6-7 hours and, a healthy work-life balance. I really think in the early, aspects of your, age and, career, don't really think about the hours. Think about, the efforts you put in. I think, people really sway a lot by, fancy things across, but I think these are things which are distractions. It will not matter after 5 years. I think that is what I have observed, and that is what I have learned. Ki bhai, in early ages of life, slog as hard as you can, learn as hard as you can. Because I've always learned that when you invest those first 5 to 10 years, that results in your next 30 years. And if you don't invest that, your next 30 years will be a struggle. And I think I personally think that. One last point also would want to add here is entrepreneurship from the outside looks extremely cool. I found it really cool. Being a student, I was fascinated. Ki bhai, private jets, Mark Zuckerberg, that life which is created by Instagram influencers, which we all see, ki bhai, private jets, fancy things, autograph signatures, events, speaking. It all looks extremely cool. I've seen many entrepreneurs becoming very cool, giving speeches across. But have you ever seen the real entrepreneurs? I mean, the real entrepreneurs like Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk or Mukesh Ambani, all of these people who have done that. I mean, it's a lot of struggle. And I think, I personally think that compared to me, the people who are with me on this panel might have faced that. And I've been, entrepreneurship extremely difficult. It is not built for anyone. It looks cool from the outside, but when you come inside, you realize where you are. And there is no way out, not in or out. I think, don't really be swayed about these things. Ask people how it actually feels. Outside, everything looks good, but inside you actually realize. So I think entrepreneurship or not entrepreneurship, choose what you want, choose what you love, but don't be just swayed about these influencers on Instagram who, act cool stuff, but the actual entrepreneurship is extremely way harder than it seems. So I think that would be my submission.
Entrepreneurship is absolutely, I would say, Mayank and everybody will agree, is a responsibility. It is not like that you hire 3 people and fire them next day. Okay, it is not possible that way. So when you're building it, I'm sure the bank and now they make sure the others get paid on 1st or 7th rather than you get paid, and you probably do not get most of the time paid actually, right?
That's the truth.
So and you sacrifice all that. Can you do that for others? Can you do that, all those things? Then only you think about the entrepreneurship. The second thing I want to touch upon, the work-life balance. I have worked with thousands of people. People used to come into my cabin when I had a large team of 600, 800 people. And sir, work-life balance. I used to tell in all my sessions, work-life balance, wo kya hota hai? Work is the life. Imagine the people who, when they get retired from the government job, 60, 70, 65s, they have tough time because they don't have anything to do. Please, please and please, why Amitabh Bachchan still works? Why these celebrities or entrepreneurs work even 70s, 80s? They are super active. They are able to work because they have a work. That's why they have a life. So do not try to do this thing saying work-life balance at 25 years of age. I'm so sorry. So you have to have work and the life will automatically will follow you. So I'm saying that's what I also want to add here. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, my panel. And I feel that you guys have explained one of Alexander the Great's quote in a very simple way. Alexander the Great once quoted that I am not afraid of 100 lions army which is led by a sheep, but rather I am afraid of an army of sheep led by a lion. So that's what you guys and my panel has described in a very simple words. Now, I'll be asking one last question to you, Mayank sir, and that's regarding hiring only. So your company is incorporating the concept of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion across the nation as far as your talent acquisition and clients are concerned from the perspective of metro and tier 2 startups. So how are you incorporating it, sir?
Well, you said it from a perspective of recruitment, but again, I'll answer it as a company, as an organization as whole. We are someone sitting, as I said, in Pondicherry too, and someone sitting in US, Atlanta, someone sitting in UAE. I'm talking about everyone out there who's working with us, and it's a small team. I still feel, I mean, like Ashish sir, I've managed 1,000 plus team myself. So now that we are 120, right, I still feel that, you know, even at 120, culture is still in your hand, right? So what can be a language barrier? We substituted what is the norm, right? We say it's English. Let's everyone, when you get in a meeting room, talk in English, right? Not Hindi. And of course, there can be some people talking about national pride on this, but I still feel that when you run an organization, when you run a startup, you know, you have to be fair to everyone, right? English unites them. Second, you need to have common practice around everyone, right? So, I mean, as Arnav also said, that a lot of the faff that goes in the market, right? You know, diversity, and Netflix especially led the woke culture, and of course there are period leaves and things. I think if you grant a sick leave 2 day in a month, that's fair policy because it has to be fair to both the genders. And again, when I say both the genders, I take it as a agnostic, right? The gender plus plus LGBTQ plus, right? You need to have policies which don't differentiate even on them, right? So when we hire, we just look for a specific skill set. We have a three step hiring round. One is of course the skill. The second is the fitment to the team, wherein it's not just the team. Have they worked in a team? If it's a manager position, have they led a team? And third is the cultural fitment round. And again, to everyone else, as a panel and as an individual, I'm sharing whatever I'm sharing is strictly to be taken in confidence. These are strictly our opinions as panel. You know, when we talk about work-life balance, of course, you want to, you know, just postpone your achievement sense and, you know, keep it in a 7 hour. That's up to you, right? If you want to just be talking about, I'm going to be a forebearer of diversity and I don't care, the work should be unequally divided. Don't think of, participating or joining a startup, right? Because everything will be equal for everyone. That is what we focus on. And even by being equal, right? So we have, let's say, 8 leaders, eight senior leaders, 8 AVPs, and around 33 managers and senior managers. You won't believe 40%, 35 to 40% would be, the other gender, right? And again, I'm specifying as female plus LGBTQ, right? So it's not a male dominated patriarchic setup when you look at it, because when you are equal, that proportions will automatically fit into it, right? And again, when we say that, and you talked about diversity, right? I'm just talking about this thing. It's very important right now, because you also have to understand how many female workforce or the LGBTQ plus workforce participates in is contributes the overall total workforce, right? It is 28%. So out of 28%, which is the average workforce, 33% managers and senior managers in Zimeo. It's defying the market norms, right? And we are trying to build leadership on that. Second is, if you look at people who have worked here, and going back to the first question, tier 1 cities versus tier 2, and again, people also mentioned pedigree. I am not a firm believer of pedigree or space as tier 1, tier 2. Let's label it for now. But my point is, because I've never in my mind also had a classification that with how many leaders are coming from tier 1, how many leaders are coming from tier 2, but trust me on this, it is equal representation across, right? What's the, and I'll talk to you in a very generic sense. When people say, we are atheist, right? They say, they don't mean that they don't care about what God and all. They mean they hate the existence of God. The true sense of inclusivity is being agnostic. When you're agnostic, you means you don't care, right? If it exists, it does not, you don't create, right? When you say I'm not rightist, then you're putting it that you are on the left side, right? So, just hating right for the sense of they are right and I'm going to hate everyone who wears saffron, that's again, you're part of that. You're not inclusive then. You have to be truly agnostic. So when you hire, you can't just say that I will hire female workforce, I'll hire LGBTQ plus. Then you are again, treading the sacrosanctity of being truly inclusive. True inclusive means being agnostic. If the day you start measuring how many female workforce I have, how many people come from tier 2 towns, then you are again part of the problem. Learn
Absolutely.
to be agnostic in true sense.
It's
right?
on merit. It's on merit.
It's true merit.
What works best for me, for the company, I'm doing that. Simple.
And again, when you, so as a startup, we all of us are going through our own struggles. And as Ashish and Anna said, even many months we also don't get salaries, right? And then out of 120, again, everyone is human. And when you talk about, we cannot have, let's say, a period leave, or we need to work on some Saturdays. So we work 5 days, but let's say we have to work some Saturdays. And then there's this whole lot who will come and say that, no, we cannot work. It's invading our personal professional life, right? Again, then it comes back to the cultural fitment that I was talking about. So you might be right in your sense, but then you're not fitment to us. As my own setup, as someone who's founded this organization, I want it to be agnostic. Just because you are young puts my startup, and you want your own work-life balance, puts my startup to catastrophe, right? I might just lose my customer because somebody is not pulling up the hours that I need, right? And I'm not saying it. Again, as I said, we work 5 hours a day. You won't be asked to work the 9th hour first minute. But there are days when you have to own the business for us, right? Someday it can be yours. And again, as I'm also a firm believer what Anna and Ashish said, when you are young, work to learn. And later what you learn becomes what you earn. Simple. So I'm not going to push you for it, but if you're not pulling up for, my cause, if you're not pulling up for what the team believes in, if not pulling up for what we truly believe essence as a startup, as an organization, and at a bigger sense, then you don't belong here, right? And again, that brings to the final point of why we talked about inclusivity. I try to cover every aspect, but again, inclusivity might mean different things for different people. It can mean, being inclusive for differently able. It can mean being inclusive for someone with mental issues, right? again, I am as inclusive and as agnostic about it till my culture gets hampered, right? If I feel that, my working culture is getting hampered because someone is throwing tantrums in the name of, I've got my own mental issues, you don't know what my past looked like, I would say, boss, then please deal with it. Don't let my startup suffer for it. I'll work with the guy, I'll give him counselings and I'll give him many things. But then there are some people who will just, in the name of, as I just mentioned, in the name of balance, in the name of wokeness, in the name of diversity, will try to harm that small plant, that small seed of your vision, your dream to go tarnished, and you can't allow that. So that's one thing. And again, yeah, I'll also, it's the last ending lines, and I'll repeat what everyone has said. Looks very much fancy from the outside. It's all of this, what you see on Shark Tanks and things, that is all glamour. Before sugar cosmetics came to glamour, there are 11 years of hardship nobody talks about. Yeah, and every other startup, right? So you have to go through a lot of darkness before you come to light. Be ready for it. In professional career, in personal, this works like this only.
And people who have never done entrepreneurship trash entrepreneurs over the social media every day.
हाँ, वो भी एक trend है. नहीं देखिए, and again I also says mentorship is available. आप tier 2 से आते हैं, नहीं आते हैं. If you reach out any entrepreneur, right, and some people like us who have gone through our own grind, तो we will help. आप हमसे पूछो मार्केटिंग कैसे करना है, सेल्स कैसे करना है, बिल्कुल हेल्प करेंगे. बट अगर आप पिंग करते हो, I get around 10 pings, 20 pings a day की फंडिंग में हेल्प कर दो. You're backed by India Mart, BNext, प्लीज कनेक्ट कराओ. यार मैं तो आपको ब्लॉक कर दूंगा. सिंपल है भाई. हेल्प करना एक चीज होती है, बट देन you have to go to these pitches. Connecting is one part of it, but then your sense is not an entrepreneur sense. You're just about the money, and I detest people with money, right? Work on it, right? Work on it. Earn your own presence in the market, earn your own well-being, be profitable. Yeah, why do you even have to think about going to investors? So that's one sense. As entrepreneurs, I think I took the liberty to telling everyone that it's not all fancy and glamour, and you'll have to work some days to it. Funding will not solve your startup, right? Will not solve somebody's problem. Thode time ka hota hai, and then it will wash away if you are not clear, you don't have a product market fit. Thank you, everyone. Sorry.
Thanks, Mayank sir. Thanks a lot. So I hope the attendees who are students, you guys are adding value through this valuable session. But if you want to validate it, then link of one of the Google Forms is already shared in the chat. You need to fill it. Only then you will get the certificate and get the validation. So I would request my panel that we have already exceeded the time, but my team is sending me memes in WhatsApp. Maza aa raha hai. So if you guys will allow, I'll take few questions. If not, then I'll just share the end. Whatever you guys want.
Oh, you're asking us?
Yes. Should we take few questions? Which participants?
I'm fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I have 10 more minutes. Yeah, I have another call.
Hard stop at 12, so we can.
Yeah, same. 12. I have a call.
Okay, sure. So Nivedya is asking a question: is developing soft skills also important for an entrepreneur?
Can I take this?
Sure.
Yeah,
sir.
I think as you just commended Arnav about his storytelling skills, right? So we could narrate some of what we have gone through, Ashish, Arnav, and me, because we were able to also tell about the journey. You work hard and you're not able to tell people about your journey and what problem you're solving, then it kind of hampers the growth. Of course you will achieve it, but soft skills like communication, soft skills like presentation skills, they definitely help. A presentation and devising a presentation, right? Creativity, again, you can work on it. Product design sense, these are all soft skills that I think if you're building products, you need to have. And
sell. So you cannot hire talent, you cannot raise funding, you cannot communicate to your customer, because if you're not able to communicate, you will not be able to do either of these things. And entrepreneur needs that to be done. And remember, entrepreneur don't need external motivation. If you want external motivation, and then entrepreneurship is not for you. You have to motivate others, and you have to be self-motivated. That's the only thing I would say for entrepreneurs.
Correct. Yeah, I think many students are, or many people around want to make everyone happy. I personally say this to everyone who wants to make everyone happy. Please sell ice cream. That is the best thing, because someone is going to be angry, but we still
Yeah.
have to handle it that
Yeah.
way as well.
And they still may not like some of the ice cream taste.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can see there are still questions which are unanswered. So I'll request my team to share the Connect 2023 website link in the chat, and there the participants can get the details of the panelists, and you can connect with them and take the conversations forward. So, and now,
Yeah. So just to add more questions, what you can do, go to metacard.com, connect with mentors. There are free questions you can post and people may reply, and you can get that for free of access, no problem.
That's one of the best selling pitches I've ever seen, Ashish. But again,
Very subtle.
but I'll also settle. If we are on LinkedIn, guys, you can ping us
Yes.
up, ask questions. We will be
Anywhere,
happy to answer.
anywhere.
And if we don't reply immediately, understand that, as I just mentioned, we also get like some 40-50 queries how to set up a HubSpot to, and setting up a HubSpot is not a day's job, right? It's a big thing, right? So we'll reply. You can just post our questions. You can be very specific. I need support on marketing. I need guidance on building a team, hiring, whatever your challenges. And I think all three of us have our fortes in different things. Like I'm just telling it out front. I can work on product management for one, and BTL, digital marketing.
okay. So, well, I think if nothing else, this panel has reinforced one thing, that is both India and Bharat are important in their own sense. And learning and taking the advantage out of them is what is the need of our. It will be an annotation, or my personal annotation to Desi Global from my perspective, because the issues faced in the modern world are multidisciplinary. And to cover all the disciplines that are going to be included in the future discussions regarding Bharat and India. But on that note, on behalf of Atal Incubation Center, BIMTECH, I'd like to extend my warm regards to all the panelists for the insightful conversations and request them to smile for 3 seconds so that we can take a screenshot and record this sweet memory. I would ask my co-host to do the honors, please.
Sure, thank you. I'll just do. Thank you.
And now we'll be continuing with the startup pitching session. So thanks a lot for joining us, and have
Thank
a
you.
great day, everyone.
Thank you everyone.
Thank
It was
you.
a pleasure meeting you all.
Thank you, Arnab,
Thank you,
for
everyone.
joining. Thank you.
Also, thank you to our session partner, Jaipur Institute and BC.
Thank you for our association partner. Thank you.
Thank you.